So for intuition, like the first thing that I always talk about is energy and how energy affects us. Because when you start working with energy, you have to know the whole aspect of how energy works and how it influences us and the people around us, because it's like a whole nother world. Yeah, you have to know yourself really well. So you got to kind of know what you like, what you don't like. It's almost like a whole different type of body, like a etheric body that you have to kind of know about. And so that way, like, say if you go into somewhere, you sit down, and then all of a sudden you get leg pain, then it's like that it might not be from you. It might be where somebody was sitting there before, and maybe they had some kind of knee injury or leg pain, and you're just picking up that feeling. Um, Also, like, for example, like, say you go into, like, everything is fine, like you're real happy, and then all of a sudden you go somewhere and you're like not in a good mood, like you're just pissed off, angry, you want to pick a fight with everybody, but you don't even have a reason. Like, nobody like told you anything to piss you off, nobody triggered you in any way, but you just get really mad, and then later on you're like, wait, only when I came in here I felt like this. And then it's like kind of hard to shake off. It's because you're connecting to these people's energies around you. For example, I was like real happy, and then I went to this coffee shop, and then I was like all irritated, like just at everything around me. I was just like irritated. I was like, now what? Like, oh, and then I was like, why do I feel like this? And then because I don't get triggered as easily as before. So then I had to kind of like step back and go, oh, hey, ever since I went into there, that's when I started feeling like this. And then when I saw like how the workers were and the energy, I was like, oh, wow, they're not happy. And they were pissed at each other. And who knows, like that's how they're making their coffees, and so they're putting all that energy into that as well. And then I'm feeling that around me. And then I think on some level that can be the case too. Of course, sometimes we get triggered, but other times it's because of the environment. So you kind of got to figure out which one it is. But to know which one it is to really know who you are as a person, what you need to work on, and if you're having a good day or not to begin with, and then like all of a sudden your mood just like changes. Yeah. So all that kind of stuff really make a difference. So also with energy, because energy is just like around us, it's just there. It doesn't move or do anything without direction. So unless we give it direction, and then it'll actually move or do something. So it's like we need to use intention behind it. So intention is important because what you think, what you feel, and what you put out there is all that energy and molecules forming and changing to make it happen. So if you're at work and you're thinking like, I know right when I sit down, my boss is going to walk in and think I was sitting down all day long. Or all the energy we'll hear is, she's sitting down, she's sitting down, she's sitting down, check on her. It's not like a really good translator. It's not going to be like, hey, she's sitting down, but she was working before, it's not going to pick up all of that. So then when the boss comes in the room and they see you sitting down, they'll be like, I knew it. But if you were to say, I'm such a hard worker, I'm just taking this short break, and everybody knows I'm such a hard worker, my boss knows I'm such a hard worker, and I'm just sitting down, then when she comes in, she'll be like, oh, wow, you're taking a break. Yeah, you was working hard this morning. So the energy and what we put out there makes a difference. It's like we're changing the energy around us. So we're making energy move. So with that said, like when we do readings, to protect the energy, we have to also visualize something around us that is so strong that we're moving this energy to protect us. So we cannot just go, oh, white light. They're just going to be like, oh, light, But if you like visualize this light surrounding you, and maybe you say something like, white light, please protect me, and use all that intention, and you imagine that the energies are coming together to protect you, then you're programming the energy to do something. And that intention is way more powerful than just saying, oh, white light. So it's actually moving things. It's actually creating these boundaries. And when we talk about spirits and ghosts, first level of spirits and ghosts, I want to say is ghosts, they can go through walls, right? They can go through things because when they're in our world, they can do that, right? But so we can't really protect our energy because they can go through things. But now we have to go into their world. And so when we protect ourselves with this energy, with these walls up, it creates this barrier for them in their world as walls, so they can't come through. So this is what helps us to protect our energy. Another way of looking at spirits and negativity is it's all from within. So there's like this other level of it where we know that all of this is a part of us. And so if we can understand and not have that fear to begin with, then we wouldn't need to feel the need to always worry about protecting our energy. But I have to explain the different steps because at some points it's not like one is higher than the other. At some points we go back and we revert and we come forward. And so depending where we are in our life, right? Because I mean, I could say, oh yeah, energy is just around us and I'm not afraid of spirits. And then say I go someplace and then I'm like, oh crap. It's like you revert back. It's like, okay, so now what I do, I'm reverting back. My energy's into space again. I feel like this spirit or ghost is outside of myself and is a whole entity all by itself. So now I have to go in that world and I have to recreate that space for me because we're not perfect. So we're not going to always be like, it's just a part of us, like, so there will be times we'll be caught off guard. And so that's why it's good to be able to, I want to say, toggle back and forth between the different levels of energy, the different types of way of looking at things. That's why when people ask me, oh, what do you think about spirits? Are they real? It depends on where you are at that time in your life and how badly it's going to affect you. I mean, if it affects you, it's very real. So in that sense, we have to figure out where we are. And even if we want to help somebody, we have to figure out where they are. Because if I go to somebody and do a blessing and I say, white light, and walk away, yeah, I don't think it's going to work because they're not ready for just white light, right? And maybe I'm not ready for white light too. So my energy and theirs just makes that energy stay. So we have to look at the different perspectives. So that's like to do a psychic protection and the energy around us. And before we learn readings, we have to I want to say try because, like I said, we're all here for a reason. Nobody's perfect. We all have our triggers. I mean, you guys will see me one day at the mall yelling at somebody, you know what I mean? So, we all have our triggers. Just try at least to be able to keep our energy clear when we do reading. So we don't put any other our own beliefs on the reading and just get it for what it is. When you're able to just give the message and they're able to translate it for themselves, it's even better. Because then they're learning how to receive the message and understand the message. And also it's because it's not our message to understand. So it's not our message to pry into and figure out. So at the same time, we can deliver the message or the symbols or the feelings that we get, and it's for them to put it together. There will be times where we have to try and figure it out for them because some people are not able to make that connection, and then we can help them with that. You guys have questions so far? Does it make sense?
Yeah, I'm irritated. It's after we work out, so I'm thinking after I work out.
Yeah.
But it's not like a lot of times we go there. So.
Yeah, so I get like all these different vibes, and you just kind of gotta know where the trigger is or where that energy is coming from, and then be able to kind of. The good thing is we're aware of it. So when you're aware of it, we can always try to clear it. But when we're not aware of it, we can get stuck in that space for hours. Yeah. So there was this time when I was helping some people that were going through some really tough stuff, and I thought, oh, I can do this. I can handle this. And you think that you're helping them. You think you're able to pull them out of it. And then by the time you know it, after like 5-6 sessions, it's too late. And you're already in that that way of thinking or that way of feeling. It's like working at a job where you're like, oh, I know the people around here, they're kind of negative and they gossip a lot, but I'm not going to be like that. I'm going to go in and I'm going to be the one that's going to share unconditional love and all this, right? So you go in there, but then once you hear something from somebody that maybe triggers you a little bit, and the next day you hear something that triggers you a little bit more, eventually it's like you end up becoming them and you don't even know. And then a year later, you're like this whole other person. And then you're like, wow, I'm not like this. And then it takes you like a year to realize that, and then you're like, I gotta leave, you know? But it pulls you in. It pulls you in. It's not one of those things where all of a sudden the next day, oh, I'm a negative person and I'm like this. It's like slowly brings you there, and then you wake up a year later like, oh wow, what happened, you know?
How do you approach that word? Like, how do you're outside looking in, you see it. You see the change. But some people take it personal, say it. Oh no, it's not me. I'm not like that. How do you approach a person who's always at that place and then comes home, you see a change?
Yeah.
How do you approach him, person?
So if you see the change in the person, you only can do so much because they're the ones that have to recognize it in order to want to change. And if you point it out to them, they just might get more mad because they're in that space. So they're in that space where it's almost like if, like this, I've done this before where I'm trying to help someone, and I used to be like, you know, like they're going through so much. And over there, oh, just meditate, you know? I mean, when you think about it, if you're going through that much problems and you're in that space, you don't want a person to just say, just meditate. You're like, you know, F you, man. I'm not gonna just, you know, it's like they're stuck in this space, right? So they want you to hear them. They want you to hear them vent. They want you to hear them talk. And they want to release all this stuff. But it's like when you just say, no, just do this, it's like it prevents them from venting and to release. So it's like it's not allowing them to like let go of their feelings. Then they're more mad because they have to hold it in now. The one person that they think they can vent to is almost basically telling them not to talk. So they're holding all that emotion in their body and they don't know where else it should go. So they're gonna either lash out at you or they're gonna like get more pissed off at somebody else. So it's like they just kind of gotta go through it. But it's tough because you know, before I used to be like, oh yeah, just do this. But you know, I have to remember where I'm coming from. I'm coming from a place where maybe I appreciate a lot of things because things were going good for me at that time. But doesn't necessarily mean I can just pull them into that space. Yeah. So
Does energy have to do, like recognizing energy patterns has anything to do? Like, is it this, like, for some reason, like I recognize patterns of behaviors. Yeah. That like energies too, like.
Yeah, it is. It's energies that are patterns is usually like it's a cycle of something. So it can be a good cycle or it can be a bad cycle. But if you notice you're doing the same mistakes all the time or reacting to the same thing all the time, and if it's negative, then you know that it's something you got to look at because there's a lesson there that we have to figure out. And most of the time, it's not even the lesson that's like right here at surface level. It's like something like when we're 5 or 6. And, you know, sometimes it can be like, we think it could be like the most stupidest thing because we would think like, oh, you know, I guess it was that time when my mom took away the ice cream and, you know, it's like you would think it would be something more drastic, but when you're 5 or 6, that's drastic, right? so in our mind, we're going through this thing and we're still taking that in, and that's still being part of our life. Like maybe every time she gave you something, she took it away right after. So it all has to affect us in some way.